Hello everyone and welcome, Valiath here, and today we'll take a look at this plus 22 Murozond's Rise I did with a group from the guild. As with some of my other videos, we'll be taking a look at why I did what I did throughout this run. This has been a lot of people's least favorite dungeon, and for good reason. It is very punishing, and one little mistake can very easily wipe your group. The one person in this group that is a pug is the tank, so I'm completely unaware what his plan is here in the beginning. He did end up going all the way up to the keeper, which is my preferred pull. There's not a whole lot of damage going out on the group here, so spot healing is what I'm primarily focusing on. Outside of that, I am trying to find pockets where I can do damage. Everyone's making sure that the Magus's volley gets interrupted, because if those go through, it does a ton of damage to the group. The one thing that the DPS always forgets about is the fact that it is bursting weak. What does this mean, you say? Well, it means that they're going to continue to pew pew until everything dies as soon as possible, and not spend a whole lot of time thinking about the bursting stacks that results. Contrary to popular belief, bursting is actually primarily a DPS affix. They are the ones that control when the enemies die and when they don't die, meaning they control when bursting stacks go out. After we dispatch this first big pack, we move on to the Maiden. She is by far the most dangerous of the mini-bosses on this platform for us as healers, thanks to her Ancient Radiance cast. You'll see here when that pops, it does a lot of damage to the group, so you need to be quick to heal everyone back up. What I'm choosing to do here is to heal everyone with a Divine Toll, but I'm holding my Daybreak. My thought process at the time was I could use Daybreak for this second run of Ancient Radiance if needed, but as you'll see, it wasn't really that much damage going out and I could use other spells to heal everyone up. Instead, I used Daybreak for damage purposes. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention with the Maiden, she sends out this orb that goes out and back. Our buddy Claudio here, the Paladin, forgot about the fact that he comes back, and got hit by it and unfortunately died. We move over to the last mini-boss on the platform, the Sentinel. He has two Maguses flanking him, so we need to make sure we have our interrupts set up and ready to go. If one of those goes off, it is a lot of work to get back up from that hole. I make sure I use my Tear's Deliverance here as well as my Hand of Divinity to extend its duration, and I also use Divine Toll here for defensive purposes. As soon as some damage go out, I do pop Daybreak here to heal everyone back up. This means that I now have a bunch of these Holy Shocks available for either healing or damage purposes. Most of the time with this Sentinel, it's single target damage that goes out, meaning I can use those Holy Shocks for single target healing instead of AoE. I'm opting to use those Holy Shocks for offensive purposes more so than healing in the beginning. But towards the end, there's some damage that goes out, and on top of that there's bursting stacks, so I do use the last set for healing purposes. In this next pull, I am yet again trying to focus more so on damage than healing. I do notice that my tank is taking more damage than I would like him to, so I do pop Blessing a Sack on him off the bat. Outside of that, I do keep Glimmers to only about 1 or 2 people, just to make sure that my tank has the most damage reduction he can. For these groups here, I'm focusing primarily on single target healing. There are some people taking damage here and there, but there's no need for me to set up some elaborate AoE heal here, so you'll see me primarily do Flash of Lights, Holy Shocks, and Boosted Word of Glories to top people off. And finally, it's time for the first boss, Tyr. There are several dangerous moments this boss has for us as healers, the first of which being Spark of Tyr. You'll see the first set that goes out here. I dispel one person relatively quickly, but what I do to mitigate the damage is I make sure I put my Tear's Deliverance out and my Hand of Divinity, so I can quickly push out 2 of those Holy Lights, which thanks to the talent Resplendent Light, heals the group almost to full immediately. And once the second one expires, I make sure to use the Divine Toll and Daybreak combo to heal the group back up to full. Titanic Blow is the tank buster that Tyr has. Blood DKs are specifically bad at taking this because of their poor mitigation of damage. This is why he drops to a good 20% health after the first hit of it. One important thing for tanks to know about this ability is that it knocks you back. Our DK buddy here forgot about this a little bit later in the fight, and Tyr became an honorary member of Sparta. We're now in phase 2, and if everyone does everything correctly, there really isn't a whole lot of damage going out here that we need to heal. We should focus on picking up these orbs, but be mindful, do not pick up too many of them. They're more valuable for DPS than there are for healers, because they give you a haste buff. Very soon after that phase, another round of Spark of Tears gets sent out. We once again want to dispel one person, heal the group back up, and prepare for the second one to expire. I would suggest you use Divine Toll after the first one you dispel. This will heal everyone up to full pretty much before the big soak goes out. After everyone takes the soak damage, use your Daybreak to heal the group back up to full. This now arms you with a lot of holy shocks that you can use for healing for the second spark that's going to expire. The fight then continues to repeat itself until he's dead. The number one important thing for us as Holy Paladins to do on this fight is to make sure we have our Divine Toll and Daybreak available for those Sparketeers, as well as for the big soak mechanic. That is a lot of damage that gets dished out in a very short amount of time, and the only way we're going to effectively deal with it is if we have both of those abilities available. And here we see Tyr mimicking his hero Leonidas and becoming a member of Sparta. This next duo is actually quite dangerous, for several reasons. The obvious one is the big infinite fury that the dragon does that pushes out a ton of AoE damage, and the little rings on the ground. The second reason is staircase LOS. I cannot tell you how many times people have died because they decide to stand on top of the staircase, where line of sight does not exist, and I'm just completely unable to heal them. For the first infinite fury, my Daybreak and Divine Toll are out of sync. Instead of using Divine Toll to heal everyone up, I'm opting to spot heal everyone with Holy Shock, Flashlight, and Boosted Word of Glories. For the second one, the Marauder's dead, so I'm opting to use the combo for damage purposes instead, because the damage is really not that bad once the Marauder's dead. Here's another example where the Blizzard developers thought something looked cool and could be interesting, but fell flat on its face as soon as it was implemented. I don't know about you guys, but did anyone ask for this stupid gauntlet to be put in the game? I sure didn't. After that complete waste of time, we encounter two dragons, the Saboteur and the Diversionist. The Diversionist does the same AoE Infinite Fury like any of the other bigger dragons in this dungeon. As you notice here, it really isn't that bad because there's no Marauder around. So you don't really have to do the full Divine Toll and Daybreak combo here. All that's needed is make sure you have some Glimmers out, Flash of Light and Holy Shock, and everyone should be fine. In between that damage cycle, make sure you do as much damage as you can to the Diversionist, and spot heal as needed. Next up is the sand platform, which to be honest with you, I don't know if I hate or love. There are aspects of the pulls here that can be really fun, especially when there's a lot of damage getting pushed out from these small things dying. At the same time, it can become a complete cluster if people don't interrupt the Rift Mage appropriately, or the tank overpulls these little fusion mobs that does a ton of damage when they die. You'll see here later on this platform that we accidentally pulled a second Rift Mage. We didn't get a kickoff on the second one, and it damn near one-shot me. This entire platform is an exercise in our ability to manage and plan for AoE damage. We want to make sure we have our Glimmers out appropriately, use our Holy Shocks for healing, and have our Daybreak and Divine Toll combo ready to go. Do not forget Holy Prism for healing purposes. It does quite a bit actually. One thing to remember. When the Anomaly, which is the dragon-looking weird thing, when they push out their Bloom ability, it's always going to put it on the tank and someone else. Make sure you dispel the person that's not the tank. I made the mistake here in the first one, but thankfully it didn't do that much damage. Making sure that your Tyr's Deliverance is up and running on this platform is super helpful. Not only does the HUD itself help you with healing, but the fact that everyone that has it on them take 15% more healing from your main healing spells is huge here. Don't forget Holy Light. You're going to be talented in the Resplendent Light, which does splash healing, which helps the group a lot in here. This is the pull where we pulled two of the Rift Mages. You'll see the one closest to the group is getting taken care of, but the one way in the back is free casting, which is absolutely trucking me. It also comes off the heels of these small fusion guys dying, which has already pushed me down in health substantially. I quickly get back to the pull, but not before at least one other person died because of this. We clean up the rest of the packs on the platform and move on to the boss. This pull used to be so much fun on the PTR, because the Chronaxi would target one player, and any damage done to Chronaxi when that was engaged would be transferred to that one player. We trolled people so badly with this, and I kinda wish they would have kept it in. But since they didn't, this pack is really a non-event. Don't stand in stuff, spot heal when needed, and interrupt the Pendulum when you can. Next up here is the Destroyer. This one is much more dangerous on fortified weeks. It can actually deal some substantial damage to your group. But since it's tyrannical, it really isn't doing a whole lot to the group. I'm doing mostly DPS here. I'm using the Daybreak and Divine Toll combo when the ads come out, because you never know when they're gonna catch someone off guard and do a lot of damage. I also still have the Tears Deliverance hot rolling here from when I'd used it on the pack prior. This is helping me spot heal when needed as well. Everyone's doing a good job to move away from the little bombardment he does, so it's very much a non-event at this time. As soon as the Destroyer's dead, 3 more ads come, the Paladin and 2 Knights. These guys will actually do some damage. They have a lot of area denial, that if you stand in these things, it does a lot of damage to the group. The Paladin pops down Consecration as well, and does Sundering on your tank, meaning he takes more damage. I am opting to send out the Divine Toll and Daybreak combo here, just to be defensive. Most of the damage is going to come from people standing in the Paladin's Consecration, which if they're not quick to move out of, will deal a lot of damage. We need to be quick to react to this. Make sure we throw out our Holy Shocks, Flashlights, and boosted Word of Glories. You'll notice here though, in between damage output, I am dealing as much damage as I can to the Paladin. He's the one that's putting down the Consecration on the ground, and he's the one that's causing most of the damage going out. Next up is the Time Lost Battlefield boss. This guy does a lot of damage, and puts a lot of pressure on us as healers. Many of his abilities do a lot of damage to the group, especially for the Alliance. I am making sure to use a Divine Toll and Daybreak combo at every opportune moment, and I'm using it specifically in the order to do AoE healing. This means I'm using Daybreak first to remove Glimmers for healing purposes and also give me that 25% haste boost, but then I also use Divine Toll on the group to replace all of those Glimmers. I now have a ton of Holy Shocks that I can use for healing purposes when needed. In between those large AoE damage cycles, I am making sure to use my Word of Glories when I have Dawn Stacks, Flashlights when needed, and Holy Prism on cooldown. It is also very important that we pay attention to our tank when the boss does Mortal Strikes. This reduces the healing they receive substantially. Make sure you have Blessing of Sack available, and you pay extra attention with your Flashlights and Word of Glories. Make sure you use your Tears Deliverance and Hand of Divinity whenever available here. It's going to help you tremendously with AoE healing. If you keep your decision making very tight here and make sure you manage your cooldowns, you can even squeeze out a decent amount of DPS on the boss here also. Now on our way to probably the least favorite boss in here, Morchi. But before so, we're going to deal with this first pack. Since I know most of the people in this group, and I know they're going to be on point with interrupts and stuns, I am choosing to do as much damage as I can here in this pack, meaning I'm sending both Daybreak and Divine Toll for damage purposes. I do eventually send out my Tears Deliverance and Hand of Divinity, just in time for the bursting stacks to be taken care of. Contrary to what many people believe, Morchi is actually a fairly simple boss from a healing standpoint. There really is only one instance of damage, and that's when the adds gets trapped in the sand things on the ground. Each and every one of them gets trapped, does a lot of AoE damage to the group. This is why you don't want all of those adds to be trapped at the same time.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I got a little cocky here in the beginning and sent both my Divine Toll and Daybreak for DPS purposes on Morchi, so I didn't have them up on the first round of adds. Thankfully, everyone in this group knows how to use their defenses properly. This afforded me the time I needed to get in a position where I could heal the rest of the group up to full. I did so primarily yet again with Holy Shocks, Flashlights, and Empowered Word of Glories. Don't forget Holy Prism, it actually does quite a bit of work here. As soon as I'm in a safe position here, I send out Tears Deliverance and Hand of Divinity. This is going to be super helpful for me on the next round of adds. Everyone's going to have the hot on them, meaning they're going to be receiving 15% more healing from my main healing spells. You'll see here I'm getting myself in the position way ahead when the adds are coming out. This is to make sure that I can steer my ad into the pool that I want it to go into. As soon as they all spawn and all of that damage goes out, I immediately hit Daybreak, heal the group up to full, and then I send out Divine Toll. This puts Glimmers out on my entire party, and I'm now equipped with a ton of Holy Shocks to top everyone off. The fight continues like this until she is dead. For us as Holy Paladins, try not to be as cocky as I was in the beginning. Save your Divine Toll and Daybreak for those moments when the adds get trapped. You're going to need it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And now for the most damage intensive part of this entire dungeon. We have an Infinite Slayer flanked by 2 Marauders. With this pull, you need to make sure that you have every single tool in your kit available. I mean Divine Toll, Daybreak, Tears Deliverance, and Hand of Divinity. You're even going to want to have Aura Mastery ready to go here. I am pushing out almost 300,000 healing per second just to get my group out of this alive. You'll see I make sure I have something available for each Infinite Fury that goes out. As soon as the Marauders are dead, the fight's danger level plummets. Thankfully, our DPS plowed down those Marauders really fast, and we only had 2 Infinite Furies out with them alive. We finally make our way to the last boss, Deos. There are 2 things for us as healers to pay attention to here. Number 1 is the Infinity Orb, and number 2, the Chronal Burn debuff. The Infinity Orb causes 2 large waves of AoE damage to the group. The timing of this damage depends upon the people that are controlling the orb's drop. It is highly recommended that you keep your Daybreak and Divine Toll for both of these cycles. You can either use Daybreak on the first one or the second one and vice versa for Divine Toll. It doesn't really matter that much. What matters is that you want to make sure the U group is topped off very quickly after each cycle of damage. As soon as you see Chronal Burn out, make sure it gets dispelled instantaneously. This obviously can become a little bit of a problem during Afflicted weeks where you have to choose one over the other. In that case, always choose the Afflicted. You should have enough tools in your kit to heal that person through that debuff until your Dispel is available again. You see here, in between cycles when I don't have Divine Toll and Daybreak available for the Infinity Orb, I'm using every single other spell in my kit to heal the group. Since there's a lot of movement in this fight, I rely heavily on my instant cast healing spells, like Holy Shock, Holy Prism, and Word of Glory. Tears Deliverance and Hand of Divinity gets used as soon as it becomes available, and I make sure to push out those 2 instant Holy Lights as soon as possible. Once the fight moves to the other side of the room, it's important that you find a good spot to stand so you can cover your entire party. One of the orb controllers are likely going to be way in the back where you came from, so you want to make sure that they are within your range for healing. This is usually when the fight intensifies a little bit, as people get spread out and there's a lot more stuff going on. The last phase of this boss encounter is practically the same as the first one. He comes down and does exactly the same things, other than the fact that we now have to move to avoid the big pools that he spawns on the ground. This sounds very easy to do, but you'll be surprised how many times people get stuck in those things and take an insane amount of damage. On top of that, there's a lot of pulsating AoE damage on the group that goes out during this time. You'll see here several of my party members die because of it. This is exactly the type of damage that Holy Paladins aren't great to deal with. We have to use a global cooldown for every single healing spell we have. We have very little passive healing that goes out on the group to help counter some of this damage. I was a little bit too slow here in the beginning with my Daybreak and Divine Toll combo, and unfortunately caused my Paladin buddy here to die. As you can tell, my group starts panicking here a little bit, start making small movement mistakes and standing in stuff they probably shouldn't be. It caused another death here, but thankfully we have enough time on the clock and battle resist to clear out this boss and finish up the dungeon. But that's going to be it for this healing analysis dungeon run. I really hope you liked the video, and if you did, please consider hitting that like button, commenting below, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.